When you think back to his rookie year, um, what do you think contributed to him assimilating so quickly to the NFL?
His dominance. I mean, the greatness of Lawrence Taylor. He's bigger, stronger, faster, more explosive. And even though he didn't really know what he was doing, instinctively as a football player, he's at the very top of the list.
And I know it's been a while, but what do you remember about that rookie year? Like, was there something that stood out to you where you saw that that resonates with you to this day?
First practice. Um, he played on all four phases in a kicking game. So it was hard to block on punt protection, as you can imagine. We didn't use him too much there. He was the gunner on the punt team. It was impossible to block. Um, he played in the middle on kickoff return, and he had some of the biggest hits I've ever seen. And they played safety on kickoff coverage, and you were never really concerned that they were going to, you know, get it too far, like past the 30 or whatever. So he dominated from the first day of practice. Playoff game against Philadelphia, really was the difference in that game, just on covering punts. Um, then, of course, once we started doing that with Taylor, then, then the Redskins did it with Monty Coleman, Dexter Manley. Well, Dexter Manley first, and then eventually Coleman. And anyway, it just, other teams started doing it, and so then it was kind of almost wish we hadn't done it, but he was, yeah. But there's nobody that really I could put in his category that I've coached. There may be others that I haven't coached, but I mean, he's head and shoulders above whoever the next player is. And I've been fortunate to coach a lot of great defensive players, but be talking about Lawrence Taylor now, that's a whole different conversation. I mean, honestly, he could have played any position on defense except corner. He probably could have played corner too, but safety, linebacker, inside, outside, defensive end, defensive tackle, he would have been able to play nose guard at North Carolina. So, yeah, put him wherever you want.
Appreciate the follow up there. Thank you.
Sure. Love talking about Lawrence. Yeah.
Next question, Chris Ryan, followed by Jim McBride.
Morning, Bill. How are you?
Hi, good, Chris.
Always up for some good LT talk. Kind of sticking along those lines, I wanted to ask about your pass defense this year, in particular the role that the linebackers played, their flexibility, and in particular, Kyle Van Noy and the role that he has played.
Yeah, Kyle's a very good pass defender. Watching him in college, he was walked out in coverage a lot. For a player of his size and athleticism, you usually see those kind of guys, rushing the passer all the time and playing, more on the line of scrimmage. And then, it was kind of used in a similar role in Detroit, where he played off the ball a lot. So he's had a lot of coverage experience, which is, I would say, rare for an outside linebacker. So both in college and for the early part of his pro career. So he has a very good understanding of what's going on behind him in the passing game, combination routes and how to leverage receivers and combine that with reading the quarterback and man coverage and working in combos and man coverage and things like that. I mean, there's obviously a lot of things in pass coverage that are very high degree of difficulty, and defensive backs spend all day and all week going through those, and then you put a linebacker into that situation who's spent a lot of time defending the run, playing the outside running game, rushing the quarterback, running pass rush games, and then throw all that pass coverage on them, and it's a big load. But Kyle's very very good at that, very instinctive in the passing game. Is an excellent run player, has played on the line and off the line for us, which that in itself is hard to do. But his athleticism in space relative to some other outside linebackers is good, very good, and his instinctiveness is good, his awareness, ability to change coverages based on motion and things like that. He's not a defensive back, but it's certainly on the high end of the linebackers, being close to defensive backs in terms of their awareness, their ability to adjust and recognize things in pass coverage, like a lot more of what you would see from an inside linebacker than an on the line 3-4 type of outside linebacker. So he's done a good job for us and is able to play all those spots. And honestly, you kind of forget about how easily he does it. You sort of take it for granted. Jamie's got some of those same skills too. So does High. So we're really fortunate to have multiple players who can do those things and go in and out of different looks, fronts, and coverage responsibilities, and they all work well together. So
I had a question as well. As one of the Colts linebackers said they were going to essentially try to make Mac beat them in this game and quote see what he can do. How much do you read into what a player or a coach says prior to a game when they seem to give you insight as to what their game plan may be?
Yeah, well, we'll get ready and prepare for the game and play the game and see what happens.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, next question, Jim McBride, followed by Mark Daniels.
Good morning, Coach.
Hi, Jim.
I wanted to ask you about Devon Godchow and just his season in general, and he seems to have kind of ridden under the radar screen for a lot of people. I know not you guys, but particularly I think about the Buffalo game where he had 10 tackles and maybe kind of a microcosm of his whole season.
Yeah, but Devon's been a really good player for us. He's played primarily on the nose, but then in some games and in the Buffalo game and in recent weeks, there have been more times where he's played at end because of Carl's emergence and play on the nose as well. So when between LG, DG, and Carl, it's three pretty good run players that are all on the field at the same time. So he's shown a lot of versatility in playing on the center, on the guard in a 2 or 3 technique, and then out on the offensive tackle in a 4 or 5 technique. His pass rush, I think, has really improved this year. His transition, being able to play the run, and then when it's a play action pass, to transition from a run technique to a pass technique quickly, and that's it's not an easy thing to do because the play starts off as a run, but it's not a run, and so he's really done a good job of that. Plays has a lot of strength, a lot of toughness, runs well, has good quickness, and again, it's a very instinctive player. He understands blocking schemes and blocking patterns and so forth, and does a real good job. Really protects our linebackers, like all the defensive linemen do. They do a good job on the front, which makes the linebackers' job cleaner. So, yeah, he's been a great addition. Glad we have him, and his versatility to play, away from the ball as well as on the ball has been really beneficial for us. With Carl, getting more snaps on the ball.
Thank you.
Next question, Mark Daniels, followed by Kieran Garrigian.
Hey, Bill, good morning.
Mark?
I want to ask you about Hunter Henry. And Hunter's obviously someone you've known about for a while, from your relationship with Kevin to him playing in college for Brett, 2 coaches obviously you have relationships with.
Right.
As that you've sort of heard about for a while, how has his sort of expectations matched up with just the person you've heard about for so long?
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah, pretty good scouting report from Kevin and Brett. Hunter's very professional. Every day, very consistent guy. You know what you're going to get. He comes in here. He's well prepared. He's ready to go. He trains well. He's in good condition. He's taken a lot of snaps this year from the spring and OTAs to training camp to the regular season. Again, you get a very consistent player that's instinctive, very smart, and if you make a little adjustment in a route or a technique or how to read a certain play, he gets it the first time and understands what you need him to do and how the quarterback is looking at it and how to help the quarterback, how to help the play, how to create separation or spacing, depending on what we're trying to get done there. He's a big target. He's got good hands, and he's a hard guy to overthrow. He has good catch radius, and catch balls behind him and low and high, and he's really, like I said, a very consistent player. Whether it's the spring training camp, regular season, 7-on-7 team drills, games, he's really a solid, dependable, good football player.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Next question, Karen Gregan, followed by Jim McBride.
Good morning, Bill. I was just wondering, what's either impressed you or surprised you about Ramondre Stevenson to this point, and how well he's been able to contribute as a rookie in the offense?
Well, I've been impressed by Ramondre's growth. He's very coachable. When you ask him to do something, he really tries hard to do it the way that you want him to do it. And he's improved greatly in every area of the game. He's a player that has gained a lot of trust and confidence from his teammates, certainly from the coaching staff, really in every area: running game, the passing game, ball security, blitz pickup, run reads, run techniques, so forth, using the blockers and understanding the blocking schemes. He just gets better every day he goes out on the field. So he's been great to work with, and has really shown a lot of, I said, improvement, consistency in his daily routine, and being out on the field just continues to get better because he's out there practicing every day and trying to take the instruction and coaching that Ivan and Vinny and Josh and are giving him, and you can just I think anybody on the team would tell you that he's improved tremendously from where he was, let's call it in July, to where he is now. We see it on defense, we see it on offense. It's just he's just one of those players that's just gotten a lot better, and he's pretty good to start with, but he's just got a lot better in terms of adjusting his skills and his game to the team that he's on and what we've asked him to do.
That's great. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, you're welcome, Karen.
We'll go Andrew Callahan, followed by Zach Cox, who will be the last question.
Hey, good morning, Bill. I wanted to pivot quickly just to the front office and kind of a decision that obviously you make more in the offseason and periodically over the years, but when you're, looking to fill a position like, a scouting director, a pro or college side or even higher, what are some of the qualities you're looking in some of the lower level members of your department who might be suited for a larger, leadership role there?
Yeah, well, again, in the end, you want to get the best person for the position that you can. So it would depend on the position, the job, and maybe who some of the other people are that they would be working with around them, and how to best balance that out. So, but again, there's certain criteria for each position in the organization that I think you'd want to, we'd want to try to meet. Or as many of them as we could, and then again, maybe a person has strengths in one area and maybe not as much in another area, but maybe you have another person that has strengths in that area that's also part of that staff or group, or however you make it up. So always looking ahead, always understanding that people who have high-level positions in our organization could obviously, you know, go somewhere else, be elevated in other organizations. So you kind of have to think about what, if that happened, how we'd want to handle that, and so there's always a little bit of a, you know, who's the next person, how do you help them develop and gain responsibility and become part of the process. Maybe they may not be a decision maker in the process, but at least become part of the process and understanding how it goes, and, you know, what are their contributions and would they be ready to move up and so forth. So, you know, and then there's always the possibility of bringing somebody in, you know, externally, if that's, you can find the right fit there, again, depending on what you're looking for and what the other person's, you know, qualifications and experience was. So, you know, whether that was a person like Floyd or Mike Lombardi or, you know, people like that. I mean, obviously I've had background with those people, but not recently. You know, it was, let's say, what, I don't know, 20 years with Mike, and probably more than that with Floyd. 30 years maybe, I can't remember, but it's, you know, so, you know, it's a lot different than going from one organization to another with somebody like with Scott. When Scott came with me in 2000 to New England, that was, you know, we came together. So those other moves were a little bit different, but yeah, in the end, you try to have a little bit of foresight, but really each situation has its own unique circumstances and variables, and just try to do the best you can, not only with that person, but, you know, the staff that goes with them.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome, Andrew.
Yeah, looks like the last question, Zach Cox.
Morning, Bill.
Is that
I know we've talked a lot about Brandon's on-the-field contributions this season and how he's helped replace James out there, but what kind of impact has he made from a leadership and culture standpoint, especially with some younger guys in that position group?
Yeah, Brandon's one of the best, and always has been. It was, you know, great to get him back here. And, you know, a couple of years we didn't have him, whether that was, you know, 18 in Miami or last year on the opt-out. You know, certainly missed him, and, you know, miss his leadership, his personality. He's always about football, but he has a nice way of, you know, putting a smile on his face, you know, cracking a joke, pointing out a mistake that I've made, you know, whatever. He's, you know, has a good personality that, you know, blends that serious competitive business side with, you know, enjoying the process and enjoying what we do, and you know, giving us some of his best performances at the most critical times and biggest games when we need them the most. And he's always done that, whether it's, you know, a couple plays a game, or, you know, catching 5 or 6 passes in a game, or, you know, taking over James's role this year. He's always ready to go. He's dependable. He's consistent. Everybody knows we can count on him, whether that's in the kicking game or offensively catching the ball, blitz pickup, running the ball. And I'd say one of the most impressive things about Brandon this year, with all that he's done, is, you know, his unwillingness to give up his role in the kicking game and to continue to excel in those 4 phases where he's outstanding. But, you know, he hasn't, you know, forced somebody else to step into that role. He's maintained that role, as well as taking on the, you know, the bigger offensive role that he has. And that's, you know, been a big commitment from him, both the time commitment in terms of practice and preparation, and obviously a physical commitment. So, you know, very, very fortunate to have Brandon. And, you know, with a player like James White, it's hard to, you know, get both of them in there at the same time. But then as soon as you need Brandon, like, this is where you really see his true value, professionalism, and maturity as a player and as a person. And again, as far as leadership on the team, I think for any of us, whether you play running back, you know, like Stevenson and Taylor, young guys like that, you know, couldn't ask for a better role model than Brandon. But for anybody on the team, whether it's a offensive player, a defensive player, a coach, anybody, you know, the the way he goes about things, his consistency, his unselfishness, his willingness to do whatever the team needs him to do, and play tough, play through some when he's banged up, play in tough situations, and come through is really an inspiration for all of us. So he's had a great year for us, and he's really come through so many times, as he always have when we really needed him.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Zach.
Thank you, Coach. Thanks, everyone.
Great, thank you.
Seltzer lemonade, packed with lemonade flavor after a lemon of a year.
Opponents? I've gone up against thousands.
And there's an opponent we're all up against, COVID-19.
But there's a way to beat it. Get vaccinated.
So when it's your turn, roll up your sleeves.
And let's get to the finish line together.
When did Bud Light Seltzer start making lemonade?
Probably when 2020 handed us all those lemons.
New Bud Light Seltzer lemonade, packed with lemonade flavor after a lemon of a year.
Opponents? I've gone up against thousands.
And there's an opponent we're all up against, COVID-19.
But there's a way to beat it. Get vaccinated.
So when it's your turn, roll up your sleeves.
And let's get to the finish line together.
When did Bud Light Seltzer start making lemonade?
Probably when 2020 handed us all those lemons.
New Bud Light Seltzer lemonade, packed with lemonade flavor after a lemon of a year.
Opponents? I've gone up against thousands.
And there's an opponent we're all up against, COVID-19.
But there's a way to beat it. Get vaccinated.
So when it's your turn, roll up your sleeves.